All right, we're live. Welcome to episode 60 of the Baduk Weiqi Podcast. I am Xiao Dai.
And I am Gaza. Now, Xiao Dai, we had a lot of international action
Yes, we
last
do.
week.
Yes, we do. But we also have the some domestic action in Japan, which we will cover first, which is the Honinbo Cup. And then we'll talk about the Globis Cup, the 10th Globis Cup, which is an international under-20s competition. We'll talk about the LG Cup and some Asian Games Chinese qualifier news in the women's section. And then finish off with some Korean League news, Gaza, before we go to the calendar. But as we mentioned, Gaza, shall we look at the Honinbo game 2, day 2?
Yes, the Honinbo is one of the longest running Japanese domestic majors. It's been going on since the early 40s or maybe even the late 30s.
Yeah.
And the final is a best of 7 between the previous Honinbo champion and the challenger. Now, in this case, the Honinbo champion is Iyama Yuta, who has held the title for 11 straight years.
Which is a record, yes.
Which is a record for consecutive years holding the Honinbo. Now, the challenger is Ichiriki Ryo, who did challenge last year and lost 4-0. This year, he's already improved on that by winning the first game.
Yeah.
And then the second game, we saw, something that we should mention is that each of these games in a best of 7 final are 2 days long.
Yes.
So up to 14 days of Honinbo title action.
Yes.
Each year. Now, we saw the end of game of day 1 of this second game at the last podcast. So if you show the position after move, I believe it was move 73.
Yep.
Yes. Now Ichiriki plays black, and he played the last recorded move of day 1, and then Iyama, he sealed his response.
Yep.
And that sealed move was revealed to everybody on the start of day 2, which was, I believe, the Monday.
Yes.
And our podcast last week was recorded after the sealed move was delivered, but before it was revealed.
You're right, yeah.
So we had a guess as to what the sealed move would be.
Yep.
Now, my guess was, if you display the coordinates, my guess, I believe, was M17.
M17. Right, yep. Somewhere
yes.
Here.
And what was your guess?
My guess was it's too complicated to guess.
So if you were to get a position like this, like in an actual face-to-face game, you just wouldn't make a move?
No, I would make a move, but I'm not sure if I would get into this complicated situation to start with. It's a bit complicated. But Gaza, shall we reveal the move?
Yes, let's reveal the move. Yes.
Which is this pushed through here. So
I was completely wrong.
Yep.
And Iyama, I think, as you can see, the position is actually quite complicated.
Yeah.
Both players are playing with a lot of weaknesses. Yeah. I mean, both black and white have a lot of weaknesses, but they are, because their opponents also have a lot of weaknesses, it's very hard to tell just by humans who has the advantage. And both players, I don't think either player is really, I'm guessing that neither player is really sure how well their position is. But they seem to be in some sort of silent mutual agreement that they're going to fight each other.
Yep. And what's interesting about this position for me ended up being is that uh, Ichiriki actually ended up losing this black group in the middle. But that was okay because Ichiriki ended up tangling up Yama's white group, and he managed to seal off quite a chunky size territory. And he actually Ichiriki, I feel wasn't that bad. After that exchange in the middle, he was fighting this Ko obviously to set up some kind of capturing race between this white group and this black group. I think white was always going to win the capturing race, if I'm not wrong, but you see how Ichiki just sealed off a bunch of moves and forcing Yama to even make one more move to kill off this group. And this is, I feel, was the killer when black Ichiriki managed to kind of take the corner as well. Ichiki, mind you, ended up losing the corner after this, but Yama had to actually spend one move to take the corner, so and also this
Which
nice
corner are we referring to?
top left corner. So this corner is now black's, but Yama can spend one move to take it back. But having to spend one move to take something when a corner was yours is also obviously not great. This is a very nice Tetsuji for Ichiki to take some points. And the bottom right, yeah. So this is the point where Yama spent one move to take the corner. I think at this point black is already ahead, if I'm not wrong. So there's not black's clearly got the corners.
Yeah,
and
I think
the
black's
side.
got the top right corner. Is that right?
Top right, yes, that's right. There's not much white can do there, I think, especially if especially if black gets this move down here. So I think after that, I don't think it was too much of a Yosei thing. I think white just doesn't have enough points. So yeah, so it was a good win for Ichiriki. And what that meant was that
it's
Ichiriki
pretty
is now
crazy.
leading 2-0.
Yeah, Ichiriki is leading 2-0 now in the Honinbo. He's already won 2 more games than he did last year's title match. And it is quite an interesting final position to see that white has, seemingly a lot of space, including that large region in the middle. But it's perhaps a little bit of an illusion because black is actually comfortably ahead. And I think those two large sides, the left and the right, black has quite a bit of real estate there.
Yeah.
Especially on the right. It's just got huge.
It's got huge.
Yeah. Amount of territory.
Yeah. So.
And it seemed to me, this is I encourage people to go through this game if they want to see a really complicated game. But it seemed to me that no matter how much time you give players, they'll always seem to get they'll almost always seem to get into time trouble.
Yeah.
Even in like this game, they have 8 hours each main time, and even then, it seemed like these players still had a lot left to play after getting into Byoyomi. And I believe Ichiriki was actually the first one to get into Byoyomi, so it didn't seem to determine the outcome of the game because Ichiriki ended up winning.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do feel that time management, even in these 8-hour games, is not optimal. And I can imagine that you could give them like 10 hours or 12 hours and they'll still end up using all of it.
Yeah. I guess there was a time when this competition, when the competitions, between the top players were had basically unlimited time, because they can adjourn the game at any time. That was
was that in like the 1700s or 1600s when they had the castle games?
Yeah, or also when Qingyuan was playing, Goseikan was playing. I can't remember which Honinbo it was. It's a famous one. Yeah, they could stop the game, adjourn the game at any time, and resume. And that game took I think 2 months or something to play. Yeah. Now, Gaza, given that Ichiriki has taken the 2-0 lead, this is actually hopefully it might end up being that Ichiriki will win this title. I guess based on my model, it still could go either way. Ichiriki has a 60% chance of winning this versus Yama's 40% also now. Even though Iyama Yuta is slightly rated higher, given Ichiriki has raised to a 2-0 lead, Ichiriki now is the favorite, even by the statistical model. One thing, Gaza, I did want to say about the Honinbo is that, to me, Honinbo is the most Japanese of the major titles. Because the other major titles would be something like Meijin, and you have the equivalent of Meijin in China and Korea, and they have the Kisei, and you have the equivalent of the Kisei in China and Korea. Now I'll never, I can't imagine China or Korea coming up with a title called Honinbo, because Honinbo
No, there is no equivalent
yeah.
of the Honinbo.
Yeah.
At least in Korea, there was, because Honinbo refers to one of the ancient Go houses.
Well, I believe it was the name of the monk, but it ended up being the name of the house. But it was the name of the monk.
I thought that the monks were named after the houses.
Oh, I thought it was the other way around, but
Yeah.
but the fact is, this is the most unique. This title is the most unique to Japan. So, and it's a bit sad that as we mentioned many times before, that it's going to be downgraded to one of the minor titles. It's no longer going to be a 2-day game final series. So
yeah, starting next season, the next edition.
yeah.
There will no longer be a Honinbo League. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's a bit sad thing. So, but still a fascinating series. We still hopefully have 5 more games to go, and let's see what happens there, Gaza. Gaza, do you have anything to say before we move on to the Globis Cup?
No.
Oh, all right. So let's kind of move on to the Globis Cup, which, staying in Japan, is a Japanese-run international competition, but for under 20s, and it's a very fast competition. I believe it's a 30 seconds per move, and I think you start with just 1 minute. I think that's what it says.
You start with, it's 30 seconds a move.
Yeah.
But you can use an extra minute
up to 10 times.
Up to 10 times during the match.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So that's the that's the format. Now it's given it's an international competition. It actually invites. It's got 6 players from Japan, 3 from Korea, 3 from China, 1 from Taipei, and interestingly, 1 from Europe, 1 from North America, and 1 from elsewhere in the world. I believe they call it the Oceanic representative. And what's interesting about this competition is that this year the Oceanic representative is from Thailand. Was from Thailand. Is from Thailand. But there's also another player from Southeast Asia in there, which is Zheng Fukan, who became pro in Japan, but actually studied Go in China and is a Malaysian. So there's actually 2 Southeast Asian candidates in this competition, which is actually very, very interesting. So Gaza, in this competition, I believe there's 4 groups, and the 4 groups works. There's 4 groups. Each group consists of 4 players. Basically, if you win 2 games, you can make it to the next round.
Yes, the first day features 16 players.
Yep.
And as you said, they're split into 4 groups, and each group will operate a double elimination format.
Right.
To reduce that group from 4 players to 2. And so the end of the first day will have 8 players remaining.
Yep.
And the way that the double elimination works is that in the group, since there are 4 players, there will be 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
So there will be 2 winners.
Yep.
And then in the second round, those winners will play each other. And whoever wins that goes through to day 2.
Yep.
The 2 losers also play each other, and whoever loses that is eliminated.
Yes.
And then each group, after round 2, there'll be 1 player on 2 wins. one player on 2 losses and 2 players on an even split.
Yep.
And those 2 players play each other in round 3 to determine the second person to go through to day 2.
Yep.
So basically, each group will have 2 players with 2 wins, and those players go through to day 2. You need to win 2 games.
Yep.
To go through to day 2, but if you get to 2 losses, you're eliminated.
Yep.
Now, yeah, I want to quickly just go over a couple of the selection procedures.
Yep.
For a couple of the countries here. Now, Japan have, as you said, they have 6 players. They are the host, so they have the most entrants.
Yep.
Now, all 6 of these players had to qualify.
Yep.
No one got a seed. None of the Japanese players got a seed or anything. So, for instance, the strongest Japanese youth player is Fukuoka Kataro, in my opinion.
Yes. Yep.
And he didn't get a seed. He had to qualify, and in fact, he failed to qualify. He lost to, I believe,
Omote Yuto.
Yes, Amate Yuto.
Yeah.
Yes, and the other really strong under 20 player in Japan, Sakai Yuki.
Yep.
He also had to qualify, but he did in fact qualify, but he had to qualify just like everyone else.
Yep.
So, all 6 of Japan's players won through, like they earned their spot.
Yep.
In the competition.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Korea, they actually only had 1 qualifying spot.
Right.
Two of the players, Moon Min-jung and Lee Yeon, were seeded directly into the competition.
Right.
Whereas Han Woo-jin was the one who actually qualified.
Right. Yep. Good info.
So,
yep.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, those 3 Korean players, Moon Min-jung, Lee Yeon, and Han Woo-jin, they're the same 3 players that competed last year.
Right.
In the last year's Globis Cup, in that edition, it was Lee Yeon who qualified. Han Woo-jin was seeded. But I believe all 3, well, 2 of them, the 2 seeds, Moon Min-jung and Han Woo-jin, ended up losing on the first day, getting eliminated on the first day, while Lee Yeon made it to the quarterfinals and then lost then.
Yep.
And that was Korea's worst ever overall performance in the Globus Cup. And yet, those same 3 players are returning to perhaps try to redeem themselves.
Now, basically, I just want to mention that from China, the 3 players are Wang Xinghao, Chu Xiaoyu, and Xu Yidi. So I guess Wang Xinghao would be the most, prominent of the 3. I think there was some even comments before the competition had started that what is the point of Wang, playing this competition? Wouldn't he just win, just because he's Wang Xinghao?
Well, it should. Well, I mean, it should be noted that Wang Xinghao has actually won the last 2 Globus Cups.
Correct. Yes.
He's the only person to have won multiple Globus Cups. And
right.
He's actually won the last 2.
Yes.
So, and I believe he won both of those. I'll just quickly check. Yes, he won both of those without losing a game.
Yes.
He won 5 straight games on both occasions.
Yep.
Just dominating his competition. So everyone sort of, it almost seemed like a foregone conclusion that Wang Xinghao would wipe the floor with everyone yet again.
Yes. And I think, Gaza, this kind of expectation on Wang is not without good reason, because if you look at goal ratings, he's ranked number 4. This is number 4 in the world, Wang Xinghao, right there. And in another rating, the shoulder hit rating, he's ranked 5th. So he's very, very highly rated. So, we can't say that he doesn't deserve this expectation.
No, and there even seemed to be some sort of comment saying, suggesting that Wang Xinghao shouldn't even be allowed to play because he's too strong.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is, like, this is essentially, like, by many people, this is considered to be the world championship for under 20s.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't really make sense to have the strongest players not participate.
Sure.
Just because they're too strong. It's like it would be like if Choi Jong didn't compete in the women's world championships.
Yeah.
Or the Korean or the Korean women's championships, just because she's almost obviously going to win because she's just so much better than everyone else. But the thing is that, you know, if she's the best woman in Korea, then, you know, you shouldn't punish people for that.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, of course, there are some tournaments, like there are some Japanese tournaments where, you know, that have like criteria where if you won the last edition of the tournament, you can't compete next time.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not the case for any of the majors.
Yes.
And I would consider this, like, for an international competition. I mean, we already have. I mean, I really don't think it's a good idea to restrict. Yeah. To overly restrict who can compete in international competition, because in international, like, people should be. If you're strong enough, like, you deserve the privilege of being able to compete internationally.
I guess that there really is no danger of, you know, anybody disallowing Wang just because he's too strong. But I think it's just just people talking about that. Guys, let's go over some of the results. So let's go through the day one. Now,
but just quickly, before we go through the results, we also probably should mention the time controls for this tournament.
Oh yes, it's because we mentioned that it's like 30 seconds per move and 1 minute per Yumi.
Oh yeah, sorry, we did mention that. Yeah, so yeah, the you do need, it should be worth just remembering that, because these are very, very fast games. So upsets can happen.
Yes, it can. So what's happened was that we have Yuki Tanaka taking on Xu Yidi of China. Now I can say I have never heard of Yuki Tanaka. Xu Yidi I've heard about because he has appeared in the JAR League, but mostly maybe as a sub of sorts, or maybe a player in a very weak team. So he had a pretty poor record in the JAR League, but he's still very young. So he did well. He beat the Japanese representative, which is Yuki Tanaka. So he's got 1 win. Now, staying in Group A, we got Masaki Konishi beating the Thailand representative to move to the semi-final of the group. But then Konishi lost to Shu. So Shu is the first quarter finalist from Group A. Now moving down to Group B, we got Miura Taro versus versus Han Woo-jin, and Han actually lost this game. So and Han Woo-jin is already a 7 dan, and Miura is still just a 3 dan. So that's a little bit of an upset, wouldn't you say, Gaza?
Well, Han Woo-jin is considered by some Koreans to be the super rookie of Korea at the moment. He is the current rookie king, the reigning rookie king, and he also won the Millennial Chunwon competition earlier this year.
Yep.
He is considered to be among the strongest players younger than Shinjin So.
Yeah, and he's also so highly regarded that he was actually given a wild card in the Weiqi Construction Cup last year.
Yes, he was one of the 2 youth players, along with Kim Yoon-ji, to get a wild card into the Weiqi Construction Cup.
Correct.
Where he even won a couple of games as well.
Exactly, yes.
And not only that, he's also in the Korean League. He played for Team POSCO.
Yep.
He had a decent, if not spectacular, record. I'll just quickly see how he went. I know that Team POSCO only just missed out on the playoffs, but Han Woo-jin, he was their 3rd player. He went 6 wins, 9 losses.
Okay.
not above 50%, but I think one of the youngest players in the Korean league.
Yep.
Yeah, so he is a highly considered
Yeah.
prospect, and perhaps a little bit surprising to see him lose to Miurotaro. Although Miurotaro, I would consider to be the second strongest of the Japanese contingent in this
Right.
Globus Cup. So
Okay. So
yeah,
yeah, I guess it's not too bad. I guess at pro level anyone can beat anyone. But moving on, we got Wang Xinghao beating the Romanian, basically European representative, a certain Denis Dobranis. He's an amateur 7-dan. So I guess European 7-dans are really strong, basically top of the scale in Europe, basically. But was still not good enough to defeat Wang Xinghao. So Wang moved up. And then Wang played Miura, and Wang also won that one, as expected. So Wang becomes the second quarterfinalist. So by this point, I guess if you look at just Group A and B, China has already got two quarterfinalists. Now, moving on to Group C, that's where we see the appearance of the Zheng Fukang, who's from Malaysia, and he played Tu Xiaoyu, and I guess Tu Xiaoyu was just too strong for him, and Tu managed to move up. And then got a very interesting clash between Moon Minjun and Kevin Yang. Because Kevin Yang, of course, is the US representative. He's actually won a couple of games last time.
Yes, last time he actually made the quarterfinals.
Correct.
He made it through to day 2.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
Very impressive. And this time he got drawn versus Moon. Now, I had just looked at the Kifu beforehand, and it felt like that Yang was, I guess, outplayed by Moon. I guess Moon is a little bit too strong for Kevin. So it's a bit of a bad luck, I guess, for Kevin to be drawn against Moon. But given this is a double elimination, Kevin still has a chance to make amends later on. But what happened is that Tu Xiaoyu played Moon Minjun, and Tu actually beat Moon. So Tu is now the group winner for Group C. So Group A, B, and C were all won by Chinese players.
Yes, the Chinese contingent went a perfect 6 wins, 0 losses on day 1.
That's very
strong. I think that's exactly what they did last year as well.
Right.
I'm just going to quickly check. I know that they all qualified last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, no, Tu Xiaoyu, he lost a game on day 1. They went 6 wins and 1 loss.
Okay, that's
last year. Yeah.
Okay, still okay. And then we got Yuki Sakai this is Group D now. Yuki Sakai versus Lee Yun from South Korea.
I just want to quickly mention, I did have a quick look at the Moon Minjung Tu Xiaoyu game.
Yeah.
And it was a very interesting game by Tu Xiaoyu. Moon Minjung, he played a bit of cosmic style, I think.
Right.
And I think he let Moon Minjung get all 4 corners, but then Tu Xiaoyu basically got a huge moyo in the center, and Moon Minjun just was not able to invade it sufficiently, or without he just wasn't able to invade it at all, really. And Tu Xiaoyu, very nicely played.
Yeah.
But now moving on to Group D, as you said.
Group D, we got Sakai Yuki playing Lee Yun of South Korea, and as you mentioned, Lee Yun was actually one of the seeds.
Yeah, from Korea.
Yeah, and Yuki Sakai actually beat Lee. So that in the Korea-Japanese clashes, that's actually 2 Japanese victors already. So I guess that's kind of similar to last year.
Yes, but you do need to. It should also be mentioned that, like Han Woo-jin is the reigning rookie king of Korea, Sakai Yuki is the reigning rookie king of Japan.
Yes.
So I would consider him. So he's like the strongest of the Japanese contingent here. So
yeah.
And he also participated in the Korean League. Right, Sakai Yuki as part of the Japanese team, of course.
Correct, yes.
Lee Yi-on, on the other hand, he was in the Futures League. He wasn't. He did play a couple of games, being brought up by his league team in the Korean League. He only played a couple of games. But he mainly played in the Futures League. Meanwhile, Sakai Yuki, he played in the Korean League. I'm not sure how many wins he got. It wasn't 0. He got it was either he got 4 wins, 8 losses.
Okay.
So not too shabby. But yeah.
Yeah.
He's got some experience playing against Korean players. So
yeah.
Definitely, not as huge an upset as you may think.
Yes. So I would kind of expect that to happen for the top players from China, Japan, and Korea. Like they can win against each other, and that will kind of become normal. It's just that at the most elite of the elite level, basically cream of the crop level, it seems to be that Korea and Japan are in China, are leading. But I mean, they should be competitive. I want to see Japan become more competitive. But talking about Japan being competitive, in the very next game in Group D, we got Omote Yuto losing to Xu Jing'en from Chinese Taipei. So Xu moves up, and then Xu Sakai show was won by Sakai. So Sakai actually became the Group D winner. So the Group A, B, C, D winners are 3 Chinese and 1 Japanese, no Koreans.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That leaves us. So round 2, you've mentioned the winner playoffs. What happened in the loser playoffs?
Now in the losers group, so we got Yuki Tanaki from Japan beating the Thailand representative. I really don't know what his name is in English, but it's So I probably have no hope of pronouncing it, but and then after that he needs to win one more game, but he wasn't able to do so versus Konishi. So Konishi became the second player to make it out of Group A, and of course it's a Japanese player. In Group B, we got Han Woo-jin playing the Romanian representative, European representative. He beat Dennis Dobrenes, and then he played Mura Taro.
Yes, a rematch of their first of round 1.
And this time Han Woo-jin came out on top to make it out of Group B. So goodbye Taro over there. And in Group C, we got Zheng Fukang and Kevin Yang meeting. This is very interesting. But Kevin managed to get the better of Zheng here. So, so 1 win for the North American region. At least 1. But unfortunately for
And then Kevin Yang had a rematch against
Moon
Min-jung.
And let's just say, again, this one is where I feel that Moon, again, just more skillful than Kevin, especially close quarter fighting, noticing the details. Moon won out, so Kevin was not able to repeat his quarterfinal, his performance last year in making the quarterfinal, so losing to Moon Min-jun. I guess he was a little bit unlucky having to face Moon Min-jun twice, given that Moon is probably widely expected to be, I guess, the top player from Korea of the next gen.
Moon Min-jung, by the way, he's also a former Globis Cup champion.
Yes.
Shouldn't be forgotten.
Yes. So, unfortunate for Kevin is goodbye to Globis Cup, but his performance was definitely, worthy of a pro status. So that's how I can say. But Moon Min-jung is definitely the stronger player. He moves up and into the quarterfinals. And lastly, in Group D, we got Lee Yun taking on Yuto Omote, and he actually did manage to beat Omote, but Lee then faced Xu Jing'en from Chinese Taipei, and he actually lost. So we got 1 Chinese Taipei player making it into the quarterfinals.
Yes. I just want to point out. So there were 4 players that didn't win a single game.
Right.
As expected, the Oceanian representative and the European representative. Also, Cheng Fukang.
Yep.
The Malaysian player representing Japan, and Omote Yuto, who was actually the player that knocked out Fukuoka Kitaro. Wow. He knocked out Fukuoka Kitaro in the qualifiers and then went on to lose both his games in the main event.
Yeah. Wow.
Perhaps perhaps his win in the qualifiers was a little bit of a
What do you call it?
an upset, a bit of
Yeah.
a surprise.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised that it was actually an upset because he is just a one dan, so maybe a little bit inexperienced, but
Yes.
yeah.
But then in the end, all three Korean players did end up making it through to the quarterfinals. So they've Han Woo-jin and Moon Min-jung at the very least redeemed themselves a little bit from last year where they were eliminated on day one this year.
Yeah.
They both made it through the quarterfinals. Not all three Koreans made it through the quarterfinals. My apologies. Lee Yeon got eliminated.
Yes.
So Lee Yeon was actually the one that made it through the quarterfinals last year.
Yeah.
And then he got seeded this year, so he didn't have to qualify. But then he ends up getting eliminated on day one.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Moon Min-jung and Han Woo-jin, who both had absolute shockers last year, managed to make it through to day two. And even though they both lost a game on the way, it doesn't matter on day two because every game in day two is a knockout.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you won all your games on day one. You're back to square one on day two. Everyone's even, Stevens.
Yeah, 100%. Now, so on to day two. Now, this is the start of the quarterfinals. There's no more all of this double elimination business. It's straight knockout from this point on. And we have first up Shu Yi versus Han Woo-jin, and Han proved to be too good. He progresses to the what's it called, the
Semi-finals.
Semi-finals. And then you got Tu Xiaoyu playing Xu Jing'en, and Tu managed to move up. It says butcher here, but that's because the word Tu, if you look at it literally means to butcher an animal. So that's why when you translate to English, it says butcher, but that's Tu Xiaoyu. And then you got Wang Xinghao playing Konishi Masaki, and as expected, Wang managed to progress. Of course, his surname Wang it also means king. And then you got Sakai Yuki playing Moon Min-jun, and Moon actually won out. So basically, in the semi-finals, there's no Japanese player remaining.
Yes, that's right. Only two of the 6 Japanese players ended up even making it through to the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
And those two both ended up losing. So no Japanese players in the semi-finals. For the 9th straight year, there will not be a Japanese Globis Cup champion.
Yep.
Yeah.
So guys, just to chime in a little bit with the fate of Japanese international tournaments. I guess we all know what's been their fate. They have all been cancelled, and I guess by no small, but due to no small parts in the Japanese poor performance in these international tournaments. So, for example, Toyota Denso Cup is gone. Fujitsu Cup gone. Now the Globus Cup is into its 10th year, even though you would have to say, as you mentioned, the Japanese player haven't really done that well. But actually, I believe I think in the first one it was won by a Japanese player. In fact,
it was won by Ichiriki. That's
yes,
right. Ichiriki won the very first Globis Cup.
And in fact, I believe the final was between 2 Japanese players.
That's right. Su Shawan was the other finalist.
And I think it was after that first edition where it was won by the Japanese players, a Japanese player, Ichiriki, and the final was between 2 Japanese players. That's when the president of the Globus Cup said that he will want to run this competition for 10 years. And guess what? This is the 10th edition. And for the last 9 editions, no more Japanese winner. So I do wonder if this is the end of the Globus Cup.
Yes. In fact, I believe the 4th edition, since the 4th edition, only once has a Japanese player even made the final.
Right.
Or even, I believe, actually, since the 4th edition, in the last 6 editions, only once has a Japanese player even made the semi-final.
Yeah.
And that was Fukuoka Kataro last year, who ended up making the final as well.
Yeah.
But, 6 straight tournaments and only one Japanese semi-finalist. When you've got 6 of them competing each time, it's looking a little bit
shaky.
worrying.
Yeah. Yeah, so I haven't heard any news about it being, discontinued. So hopefully it will continue. It is a good competition, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was. So continuing on with the semifinal. Now the semifinal was actually when I paid maybe closer attention to the Kifu, and the first game was between Han Wujin and Tu Xiaoyu, and this is a very interesting game because I really don't understand why Tu Xiaoyu did what he did. Basically, he ended up running a huge dragon, and after Han Wujin started attacking it, it felt like he was still like tenukiing, and I think he just tenukied 1 or 2 times too many, and ended up having his dragon just completely butchered. So that was a bit sad news for
It
Tu.
looked like it was a pretty insane co-fight.
Right.
Set of co-fights as well.
I think Tu. He definitely like tenukied a couple of times too many for my liking. But I don't know, maybe just my style. I would have definitely tried to take care of the dragon much earlier, but it was really crazy. So that means Han Wujin moves into the final. Now in the other semi-final, we got Wang Xinghao playing Moon Min-jun, and I think Wang had a pretty good victory there. So we got Wang Xinghao making it to the final as expected versus Han Wujin there, who had a little bit of a stumble in the group stages. So I guess all eyes were on the final. I guess
the current Chinese Rookie King versus the current Korean Rookie King.
And I guess you would have to say that Wang would be the favorite.
Yes.
But there was some discussion in the Discord saying how determined Han Wujin's facial expressions looked, and that he's really taking this competition very, very seriously, as you should. I believe the prize money difference between the winner and the losing finalist is about 6 times. This is actually a lot larger than other tournaments, which I think should be around 3 times. So this is a huge discrepancy in terms of prize money. I guess you aren't really, when you're in the final, of course, you just do your best. Prize money doesn't really come into it. You kind of just want to do your best no matter what the prize money is. But it is a very stark difference. And Gaza, what's happened in the final?
Well, Han Wujin actually won.
Oh wow!
Yes,
that's a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, a big upset. The reigning 2-time Globis Cup champion Wang Xinghao got beaten by the Korean Rookie King Han Wujin by 2.5 points in the end.
2.5 points, yes.
Yes.
It looks like they went all the way to Yosei, and they were even playing out the Dame moves, and it happens to be 2.5 points, which is a very, very good victory for Han Wujin. So this is Wang Xinghao here.
It was a very close game throughout, actually.
Right. And this is, I believe this is Han Wujin. This is Moon Min-jun.
Yes.
So very, very nice win.
As you can see, by the way, they are playing remotely. They're not playing face-to-face.
Yes. I guess they kind of can save a bit of money, I guess. So now, even though we talked up Wang Xinghao a lot, this game, obviously, when you're playing against pros, against top pros from Korea, you never guaranteed anything. And it shows. Wang Xinghao was not able to do a 3-peat. He's not, going to do a Michael Jordan in the NBA. And this could be one of the, if I'm not wrong, Wang Xinghao's last chance.
I don't think it's his last chance because I believe he's 1 year younger than Tu Xiaoyu.
All right. Yes, all right.
Who was also competing in this Globus Cup. It was for sure Tu Xiaoyu's last chance.
Right.
It was also Moon Min-jung's last Globus Cup. And he did okay. He did lose to Tu Xiaoyu and Wang Xinghao, which he probably would have wanted to get at least a win over one of them, but he didn't lose any games he would have been expected
Yeah.
to win, I suppose.
Yeah.
I see that Tu Xiaoyu is born in 2003. Wang Xinghao, he's born in 2004, but February 2004. So I don't know how that works.
Right. So I'm hoping Globus Cup gets to continue, and I'm hoping to see Wang Xinghao again. But that is the satisfying conclusion to the Globus Cup, the 10th Globus Cup. So congratulations to Han Wujin.
Big congrats to Han Wujin, and perhaps this is. Hopefully, he can grow and progress from this victory, in a better than what Moon Min-jung did. As we know, Moon Min-jung actually won the Globus Cup 3 years ago, but while he has risen up the rankings for sure, his progress has not been as rapid as that of, say, other Globus Cup champions like Shin Min-jun or Shin Jin-so. He certainly is not the a world major regular, nor is he a contender for any of the Korean domestic titles at the moment. But there is a lot of, obviously he's still only 20, so he still has time. But for now, all of the hopes for the future perhaps are on Han Woo-jin.
Yes. So let's see what's going to happen. I guess Moon was, often touted as the next, Shin Jin-so, next Lee Se-do. I mean, he was never going to be. It feels like, one of those players from Argentina. They're always kind of being referred to as the next Maradona. I think everyone from Iyama to, I can't remember what his name, Vazquez, I think, Riquelme, but not everyone's going to be a Messi. So Moon Min-jun has such a huge weight of expectation on him, but it might be that he's passing the torch to Han Woo-jin. And I'm not really sure if Han Woo-jin will even live up to the expectation of being the next Shin Jin-so. So perhaps Shin Jin-so is another era-defining player that's not going to find a repeat anytime soon. So
yes, but I mean, beating Wang Xinghao is no small feat.
No small feat for sure. So, okay, let's just again, congrats to Han, and I guess we can move on to the next topic, which is also huge, Gaza, huge topic, and that is the LG Cup, which we have did a preview of last episode, and I ended up asking this question for the LG Cup, which is about the round of 16, but I guess we should look at what's happened in the round of 24. So in the LG Cup, they start with 24 players, but that's because 8 of the players are seeded. So in the first round, you get 16 players playing each other, and the winner will get a chance to play with the seeds in the next round. Now, in fact,
that's not always the case, though. It's simply 8 players get a bye to the second round, and it usually is a seeded player will play against a non-seeded player.
Yeah.
But this year they seem to change it up a little bit.
Yeah. They redid the draws, it looked like, and pulling the players who got a bye and the players who didn't into the same pot, and they kind of just did the redraw.
But regardless, there were definitely 16 players that played in the round of 24, and 8 players got seeded into the round of 16.
And Gaza, this is our pet gripe. The viewers are probably sick of us complaining about this, but the first round of the LG Cup happens to be played on the same day as the Honinbo final game, right? Which meant that Ichiriki and Iyama can't participate in this year's tournament again. So
that's right.
Yeah, that's the sad bit. But that's not. We're not gonna beat the drum on it again. But let's go over the results, Gaza. And I think there's some interesting results in there. Now,
yes, what happened in the round of 24?
Like we got the first game. We got Han Sun-ju versus Lai Junfu.
Yes, Lai Junfu is the lone
Taiwanese rep.
Taiwanese rep.
Yep.
Um, current Taiwan Mingren champion. So
Yeah.
he seems to be quite experienced at the proficient, at least at the longer time controls.
Correct. Yes. And you would do well to remember that Lai has recently beaten Kerje in the Lanka Cup first round. So there's a lot of expectation on Lai, but he wasn't able to beat Han Sun-ju. So Han moves into the quarterfinals, and his next opponent
round of 16.
Yeah, round of 16, and his next opponent will be Ding Hao. And then we have what do we have here? We got Xu Chaoyuan versus An Sunjun. An Sunjun was ranked 7th in Korea, so was a little bit too strong for Xu Chaoyuan. So
yeah, really disappointing for Su Shaowan. I still have high regard for him.
Yeah,
he has had some good wins on the international scene,
right?
Including in the Nongshim Cup and in World Majors, but he just does not seem to have that consistency at the moment.
Yeah, but yeah, he wasn't able to make it past the round of 24. Now and then we got Mi Yuting versus Han Tae-hee. This is an interesting one because I remember reading the commentary and looking at the key field a little bit. It looked like Mi was dead lost. Like basically he
had a misread
near
the beginning of the game. Yes,
right. And basically I guess there was some expectation that he was going to lose, but magically somehow he managed to get out of it and actually beat Han Tae-hee in the end. So maybe just Han's inexperience at this level costed him the progress, but Mi actually moved into the next round. And then you got, maybe a lot of people would consider this a huge upset, but we got Kim Jung-hyun beating Lee Wei-ching. I guess before the game,
is a big upset. Kim Jong-un is of course a very strong player. He is a Korean leaguer, and he's got some experience. But Lee Wei-ching, I mean, he's just having this 2023 it's a little bit, maybe a little bit of a nightmare for him at the moment. He had that heartbreaking loss to Shin Jin-so in the quarterfinals of the Qingyuan Cup.
Yep.
Where it looked like he was going to have a huge win, but unable to keep it until the end. And now in his very next world major game, he gets upset by Kim Jong-hyun.
Yeah, and I there is a interview with the players from, I guess, called World of Weiqi, which is, I guess, China's only remaining professional Weiqi magazine. Basically, Lee described the loss to Shin Jin-so as the most devastating loss of his career. So that's how much that loss to Shin Jin-so affected him, has affected Lee. So, but unfortunately for Lee, here is another loss for him. So that's Lee Wei-ching. And then we got Seo Hun-jun playing Yu Zhengqi. And actually, Yu Zhengqi, of course, represents Kansai King. And you actually managed to win this one. Would you say this is an upset, Gaza?
Well, considering Japan's record in World Majors this year, where they went 0-5 in the Qingyuan Cup, seems like any win for Japan in a World Major is notable now, and this is their first win of a game in a World Major in quite a while. So it is worth noting.
And so that's a good one for Yu. So he actually managed to get a win out of it. And then we got Wang Xinghao playing Kim Yeon-hyun, and Wang actually won that one. So I think before the game we said this is probably not necessarily going to be a Wang show, but it happens that Wang was had a pretty strong display there and defeated Kim Yeon-hyun. And then we have Lee Xuanhao playing An Kut-hyun, and Li Xuanhao, as expected, has progressed. And then we have Gu Jihao playing Park Sanjin, and yeah, Gu managed to get the better of Park. So that's the
I
first
believe
round
this was
results.
Park Sanjin. Yeah, Park Sanjin, I believe this was his first ever world major, and it kind of showed. I think he was a little bit intimidated, and I think this was one of the more one-sided games in the round of 24, this one.
Right. Now, so what happened in the next round is that they have to redraw on the principle that players from the same country do not meet if at all possible. And what they ended up doing was they ended up drawing, if I'm not wrong, I think it was Ding Hao versus Han Sunju. And I think you would have to say that you would bet your money on Ding Hao, I guess, even though it's
Ding Hao
Yeah.
Ding Hao is the reigning LG Cup champion, having won the title in February.
Yep.
Against Yang Dingjun.
Yeah.
So you could he's obviously has to be in good form. Although his form even this year has been a little bit patchy. He did quite poorly in the Asian Games qualifiers yet again.
Yeah.
But still, I would expect him to beat Han Sung-ju, who's not in the top 10 in Korea. He's a little bit outside that. I think he's maybe 15th or something.
Yep.
He's 12th. Han Sung-ju is 12th in Korea.
Yep.
So, whereas Ding Hao is a world champion, so you would expect Ding Hao to win this one.
Yes. If I'm not wrong, someone did a real-time calculation of Chinese rankings, and Ding Hao has fallen to 5th now, but still in the top 10 in China is very, very, means you're very strong. But Han actually managed to beat Ding Hao, so Han into the quarterfinals. And then one of the most, I guess, anticipated, or not one of the most anticipated. But we have Shin Min-jun playing An Sun-jun. That was
actually Shin Min-jun played Ke.
Oh, okay, sorry. It was, yeah, okay. Shin Min-jun played Ke. That was the next round. Right, yes, because they were both seeds, but they got drawn against each other. So it's Shin Min-jun played Ke, and Ke managed to win that one.
Yes, Shin Min-jun actually was the wild card for the LG Cup because as unfortunately he seems to do, he seems to struggle to qualify for events with his consistency, and it turns out that his consistency let him down. His inconsistency let him down yet again because he, despite getting a wild card, he was not able to win a game in this tournament.
Now, in fact, Gaza, did you not say that this performance by Shin shows why he needed a wild card to be in this competition?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure if I put it in those words, but yeah, unfortunately, it seems like, only 2 years on from winning the LG Cup, he's already struggling to re-qualify for it.
Yeah, and it does seem to have a habit of meeting Ke. I believe this might be his third LG Cup meeting with Ke.
At least his third. I believe they met last year as well.
Yeah. So
Ke won that one.
Yeah, it was a very exciting game, that one.
Yes, that was in the round of 16 as well.
Correct.
And then they didn't meet. I don't think they met in the No, they didn't. They didn't meet in the previous LG Cup, but the 25th LG Cup, they of course met in the final.
Right. And I think, based on the commentary I've read, it says that it was one of Shin Min-jun's worst performances. So he didn't really do that well in this game, let's just say. So after that, we have An Sun-jun taking on Yang Dingxin. And actually, An Sun-jun managed to beat Yang Dingxin, which I guess you would call an upset. But only
It's a big upset.
It's a big upset, yes.
Big upset. Yang Dingxin's having a great year this year. Well, he didn't do so well in the final of the LG Cup. And of course, he's not playing as much as he would usually be because he got suspended earlier in the year. But he did play in the Asian Games qualifiers, and he finished top of the group. Was qualifying for the team.
Yep.
But An Sung-jun, yes, he is ranked number 7, but he's not. He's only made one semi-final in a world major in his career, whereas Yang Dingxin, he's won once and he's made a couple of finals just in the LG Cup alone.
Yeah.
But yeah, both of this year's LG Cup finalists lose instantly, lose their first game in the next edition.
Yeah.
And that also means, with Ding Hao losing, by the way, that also means that there will not be a repeat LG Cup champion.
Yes. Well, in fact, I read an article online that says this is a continuation of the LG Cup Joseki. And the LG Cup Joseki is no one can win the LG Cup consecutively, not even Shinjin So. So this proves it again.
Yes, there are definitely players that have won. I think Lee Chang-ho may have won 4 LG Cups, but never twice in a row.
Correct. Yes. So that's Yang Dingxin out, An Sunjin in. And there was a very interesting, I believe it was a interview with Shinjin So, who said that maybe some people were surprised that An Sunjin would make it this far, but he's not. He thinks that An's actually got the potential. But moving on, we got Mi Yuting playing Kim Jung-hoon. It wasn't going to be easy for Kim, and Mi Yuting managed to win out this one. And the next one, we have Yu Zhengqi playing Byung Sang-il. And I guess it's not going to be 2 wins in a row for Yu Zhengqi because Byung Sang-il beat him. So Byung is now into the quarterfinals. Another fairly anticipated one of the big ones of the day, was definitely Wang Xinghao versus Park Jun-hwan. This is huge because Park Jun-hwan is still ranked 2nd in Korea, and I think we've talked about Wang Xinghao, how he's rated really highly in the Go ratings and in the shoulder hit ratings. It's still good to see that Wang Xinghao playing so well and beating Park Jun-hwan in the process and making the quarterfinal. But that was definitely one of the most anticipated games on that day.
Yes, Wang Xinghao beating Park Jun-hwan, definitely a big game, big result.
Yeah. Now, speaking about most anticipated games, now I did run a poll on the most anticipated games in the round of 16s, and Gaza, you think that there's actually no point in running this poll?
Yes, that's right. Because I said there was no point because there was one game that just stood out above all others, and that is Shinjin So versus Lee Junhao. And it's not just because it's Shinjin So, but it's because of everything that happened in the past 6 to 12 months as well.
Yeah.
The last time that Lee Junhao Shinjin So met was in the semi-finals of the Qingyuan Cup, where Lee Junhao ended up beating Shinjin So, and
very convincingly.
Yes. Well, it was a very strong performance. So much so that it had people talking about it, not just because of the game, but because of Yang Dingxin afterwards accusing Lee Junhao of using AI.
Yeah.
Against Shinjin So and against Yang Dingxin in the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
Which ended up it never got proven, and many people now people are still on two sides about this. Some people think that maybe he did it, some other people now think that he was just completely wrong, but it was just the fact that he beat Shinjin So as well, and just had such an amazing year in 2022. This rematch was very highly anticipated. In fact, I think even on one of the streams, maybe it was K Baduk.
Yeah.
Their thumbnail for the live stream, it had the word revenge on it.
Right.
Next to a picture of Shinjin So. I'll see if I can try. No, I can't. I can't find it anymore. But
Yeah.
I definitely recall seeing. Oh no, here it is. If you go to it's actually Baduk TV.
Right.
If you go to the Baduk TV live streams
Yeah.
page, I'll send you the link in our
Yeah.
secret chat. And you scroll down just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, scroll down just a little bit. No, not that far. It was streamed 4 days. Oh, yeah, there it is. The second one from on the left with Shin Jin-soo and An Sang-jun.
Oh, the sun. Yeah.
Yeah, it says you can see it says revenge match.
Very good.
It says revenge match in the corner. So, like, yeah, the context was huge.
Yes.
Monumental. We all know Shinjin seems to take. Well, I'm not sure if this is true, but it always seems like Shinjin So takes every loss personally, and
Yes.
he's probably the only person able to do that because he loses so few games.
Yeah.
And I think he was very determined not just to win this game because he wants to win every game, but to beat Li Junhao and yeah, this was the game that I was focused on. I watched live. Obviously, all these games happen at the same time, all 8 games in the round of 16.
Yeah.
So you can only, I mean, someone of my level can only really watch one game
Right.
at a time, and yeah, this was the game.
Yes. Now,
Everyone was tuned into this one. Yeah.
yeah, of course, this would be the most anticipated. But you do notice that some other games also got a little bit of some votes. Now, interestingly, this poll was, of course, shared on Twitter as well. And in Twitter, one of the followers actually replied and says why he has chosen Gu Zihao versus Shibano Torimaru. And that's because Michael Redmond was giving a live commentary of this particular game, and that's why he's looking forward to it so much. So I guess having someone doing the commentaries is actually quite important for some of the viewers. So and also this is just a shout out to Michael Redmond who does the excellent work in that live streaming.
Yes, definitely. For some people, it's like not for everyone. Context and storylines and rivalries and stuff are not essential to watching professional go and enjoying it. But so I can certainly understand someone not being as anticipated for Shinjin So versus Li Junhao.
Yeah.
But yeah, Michael Redmond is one of the the best English language Go commentator there is.
Yeah.
Like he's the strongest. He's one of the strongest English speaking pros.
Yes.
So it certainly makes sense that the only game that's going to have live English commentary will be the most anticipated game by some of the English speakers. Yes.
Sure. And basically, we have Shinjin So beating Li Junhao. Now, I looked at some of the Chinese commentary and basically said that Li Junhao just played one move. Basically, the way he was just maybe didn't think too hard about that move, didn't think too deeply about that move, and Shinjin So grabbed that opportunity and just basically tore Li Junhao's group into 2 pieces. And in that one local fight, Li Junhao has lost the whole game. So. And Gaza, last time Li Junhao beat Shinjin So, Li Junhao played white. I remember that. What color did Li Junhao have in this game?
In this game, Li Junhao was black and Shinjin So was white. So Shinjin So white won this one, but it's interesting that you mentioned that because I have been following Li Junhao's record with black.
Yes.
And even at the end of 2022 when he was doing amazing, he was actually struggling with black, and in fact his record in his last 10 games with the Blackstones is 0 wins 10 losses. He's lost every game with the Blackstones. And like it's just incredible someone as strong as Li Junhao has such a disparity in performance with the white stones and the black stones.
Yeah, that is actually quite crazy. And if it's true that Li Chunhao spent a lot of time studying AI, that could be one of the explanatory factors, because I guess when you study with AI and you play white, you can kind of know how to respond to black, because once black makes a move, you can kind of study what white's response is. It's probably harder to do that if you're playing black. So yeah, but that's actually really interesting, the stats that you mentioned, Gaza. Now, next up, we have Gu Zihao playing Shibano Toramaru, which we've said is, some people's most anticipated game for the Michael Redmond factor, and Gu Zihao managed to win this one, which I think isn't really a surprise. But I guess, unfortunately, what isn't a surprise is that there's no Japanese player remaining in the quarterfinals.
Yes.
So that's a bit of a sad news, but we're kind of used to that. And of course, after the quarterfinalists have been determined, they do a redraw. And this is the draw. We got Mi Yuting playing An Sunjin. Han Sunju plays Koje. Gu Zihao plays Sin Jin So. And Wang Xinghao playing Byung Sang Yu. And Gaza, would you say this is the one of the most what do you call it, autistic photograph?
Well, I wouldn't say anything as offensive as that.
Right.
I would say that this is a very strange photograph. It does seem very awkward, like these players are not used to handshakes or anything like that. I mean, you've got Mi Ting and An Songjun facing each other, completely facing each other, having to turn 90 degrees to look at the camera.
Yeah.
You've got Han Sungju and Koje facing the camera, like you don't stand next to each other when you're shaking hands.
Yeah.
Like that. You got Gu Zihao looking at, I don't know where he's looking. Yeah. In my opinion, Byung Sang Il and Wang Xinghao are the only ones that are doing like a proper handshake pose.
Yeah.
It just looks really awkward. Everyone's doing their own thing. It's I don't know. I would have, like, they're not even standing like in a line.
Right. Yeah.
Like they're all just randomly scattered about. Yeah, I would have thought that they would have someone arrange them to do poses or something like that.
Yeah.
But whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But
guys, I just want to mention one thing. Like, look at the hands. Okay. Just look at the position of them. This reminds me of a famous artwork by Da Vinci. And that is this one, which is the Last Supper. Now, apparently, there's lots of secrets in this picture, and one of them was the location of the hands of the people depicted in this. Of course, in the middle is Jesus Christ, but apparently, if you look at the hands and look at their placement, and you put them onto the musical notes, the one with the 5 lines denoting the musical notes. I just momentarily forgot what the name of that thing is called. And you play it out. It actually plays. You play out the music as a result of that. Imagining if the hands are basically plays on that 5 lines musical notes notation. You can actually play a piece of music out of it. And I do wonder if you do the same thing for this picture. Treating these hands, the location of the hands as the musical notes, what kind of music would come out of it? It's a very strange thing that it reminds me of. And of course, the attire of the people, like Mi Yuting, got his shirt untucked. And then we got, which I think is a bit of surprising, that Han Sunju is actually quite diminutive. He's got the sneakers on, and Kerja's got the suits on, but then wearing sneakers. So it's just, and then you got Byung Sang Yu also doing similar things, and Sin Jin So seems to be the only one kind of, and Wang Xinghao dressed in full, and An Sun Jun dressed in proper full attire, with proper shoes, and so very interesting picture.
Yes, but one other thing worth mentioning is that Shin Jin So is playing Gu Zihao.
Yeah.
And this will be their third big matchup this year.
Yes.
At the start of the year, they had the Nongshim Cup final.
Yes.
Later this year, they're going to have the Chuzhou Lanka final.
Yes.
And then at the end of the year, they're going to have this LG Cup quarterfinal. So
Yeah.
3 rounds of Shinjinso versus Guzihao. It's currently Shinjinso, winning the Nongshim Cup final. Has one up on Guzihao. Will Guzihao be able to get revenge?
I guess it's possible, but Shinjinso is a little bit of an unstoppable train at the moment, so more things to look forward to, Gaza. We can look at some LG Cup pictures, but kind of they're kind of the same. So if there's nothing more that you want to mention about the LG Cup, I guess we can move on to the next topic, Gaza.
Yes, let's do that.
Let's do that. The next topic is, of course, there's some news from the Asian Games qualifiers from China. That's the women's section. So we got some very strong players playing in the round robin, and you would have to say there are some surprises coming out of this selection process, because we have Yu Zhiying making the team, but also Wu Yiming, who had missed out on the team last year because she came 5th. But of course, she made the Hoban Cup because she came 5th. And but this time, I think Wu Yiming came first and actually qualified to be part of the Asian Games team. And then we had Wang Yubo here. She also made the team. But unfortunately, Zhou Hongyu, one of the strongest players in China, failed to make the team. And then we also have Li He, pictured here, making the team. So the 4 players to make the team are Wang Yubo, Yu Zhiying, Wu Yiming, and Li He. Notably, Zhou Hongyu missed out. And how would you describe the quality of this team, Gaza, versus who they have selected last time?
Well, yes, if you do recall, this is actually a re-selection of the Asian Games squad, because last year they had a selection, but then the Asian Games got postponed, so they redid the selection. I've already mentioned, at least 2 times, maybe 3 times, that I don't agree with doing a re-selection.
Yeah.
But last year, the team was Yu Zhiying, Zhou Hongyu, Lu Mingchuan, and Li He. And I thought that was a pretty strong team.
Yep.
This year, they've still got Yu Zhiying and Li He, but now they've got Wu Yiming and Wang Yubo.
Yeah.
Now, that means that Zhou Hongyu and Lu Mingchuan did not make the team. And to be honest, I think that this team is actually weaker than the original team that they selected. I'm happy that Wu Yiming made the team. I think that she's a very capable player, and I think that she'll do very well. But I don't know anything about Wang Yubo.
Yeah. And
I do know that she hasn't, done well. Like, she hasn't gone far in any women's world majors.
Yeah.
Like Zhou Hongyu has. So yeah, I'm a little bit unsure. Last year's team that was selected, I would have considered to be the favorite to win the gold medal.
Right.
This year's team, I'm not so sure. Although I do believe that I believe that each match in the Asian Games for the women's team, I'm guessing it's only 3 games.
Yep.
So they only need to pick 3 players. So maybe someone like Wang Yubo would be the reserve.
Right.
In which case, Yu Zhiying, Wu Yiming, and Li He is a fairly strong team, if not in the strongest in my opinion. But
right.
Yeah, I think that perhaps the Chinese CWA officials, I can imagine they wouldn't say this publicly, but I could imagine they'd be a little bit disappointed with the outcome of the reselection.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's happened. So let's see. Maybe this Chinese team, hopefully they will at least put up a good show. I'm really looking forward to it, because I do feel that the women's section are a little bit closer in terms of strength versus the men's section, because I really do expect that Japan's best hope in the men's section is really just a bronze. But really, in the women's section, I can have higher hopes for Japan because we do remember how well Asami has done last year in the Hoban Cup. She's almost turned it around for Team Japan single-handedly, winning 4 games, I do believe. So it's going to be a lot closer.
Won 3 games, I believe.
Oh, right, 3 games, yeah. And of course, Asami has won the Senko Cup. So let's see how it works out. But I think Team Japan has a little bit of a better chance in aiming for something better than a bronze in the women's game. So that's the update on the Asian Games women's selection. So let's move on to the Korean League, Gaza, which I look forward to.
And I will try to keep this one brief because it is quite late for us.
Yeah.
But the Korean playoffs are continuing, and it is second place versus third place in one of the groups in the playoffs. Very, very quickly, the playoffs are 3 matches. Each match is 5 games.
Yep.
But once you win 3 games, they just finish the match. They don't play the rest of the games.
Yep.
Now, second place gets an advantage over third place in the first match.
Right.
Third place, they have to announce their board assignments in advance.
Right.
Then second place, they can strategically assign players to boards to give themselves good matchups.
Yes.
Now, this one I was very much anticipating because the third place team in this group is Kicks. Shin Jin-so's team.
Correct. Yep.
So then the question was, second place team is actually Shin Jin-so's former Team Celtrion.
Yep.
So then the question was, who were they going to pair up against Shin Jin-so?
Yep.
Now, there were a couple of strategies in my mind. The first strategy is to pair up your worst player against Shin Jin-so.
Yep.
And that's because if you don't think that anyone on your team can beat Shin Jin-so, you just put your worst player.
Yep.
Shin Jin-so is then essentially wasted. He gets the win, of course, but he's essentially wasted. He doesn't get, and then the strong players on Team Celtrion, they all have better chances in their matchups.
Yeah.
The second strategy is to put Kim Young-hoon against Shin Jin-so.
Yep.
And that's because Kim Young-hoon is probably the only player on Team Celtrion with any chance of beating Shin Jin-so. And he did in fact beat Shin Jin-so last year in the Weiqi Construction Cup, so he is capable of doing it. And I mean, if you thought it was a decent chance, it's a legitimate strategy. But Celtrion didn't do either of that. They put their number 3 player, their middle player, Sim Jae-ik, against Shin Jin-so.
Yeah.
And the team manager, what's his name? Baek Dae-hyun or something like that. He was asked, why did you do that?
Yeah.
Right? And apparently the answer was Sim Jae-ik volunteered.
Ah, okay, yeah. That makes sense. Okay.
It makes some sense, but it also makes very little sense. Like, you're the manager, you're the one that makes the decisions. Like, you shouldn't be basing it on players' emotion.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Like, it just seems silly to pair up one of your mid players against Shin Jin-so. Like, he's not going to win. Sim Jae-ik has an 0-7 record against Shin Jin-so.
Right, yeah.
Like, he's got it's just not happening. Like, him beating Shin Jin-so, it's just not happening.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, it didn't happen. Shin Jin-so won.
Yeah.
So now, but on the other hand, Sim Jae-ik, apart from Shin Jin-so, Sim Jae-ik could beat anyone. Like, he's got a strong chance of beating anyone else on Team Kicks.
Yeah.
Right? Even Park Jin-sol, even Baek Hyun-woo, he's got good chances of beating any of those players.
Yeah.
But you waste him against Shin Jin-so.
Yeah.
It's just silly, in my opinion. It's a waste of a matchup. Waste of your advantage. And then that on board 1, Team Kicks put put out Kim Song-jae,
Yeah.
who's had a horror Korean league. He went 1 win, 9 losses in the Korean league.
Right.
And who did Team Celtrion put up against Kim Song-jae? They put up their number one player, Kim Young-hoon.
Right.
It's like you're going up against, I don't know, you go into a bicycle race in a Ferrari, right?
Yeah.
Like you spend all your money to win a bicycle race by buying a Ferrari or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just waste. It just seems like a waste. You could put someone like Song Yusang,
Yeah.
or even if you want to be sure, Choi Cho-han up against Kim Song-jae, and you'll probably win because Kim Song-jae's just had he's in such terrible form.
Yeah.
To put up to spend your number one player slot against someone in such terrible form
Yeah.
seems like a bad strategy. And of course, Kim Young-hoon won, but in the end, Choi Cho-han, the number 2 player, he had to go against Kicks' number 2 player, Park Jin-sol. So it was a fairly like 50-50 chances for both players. And Park Jin-sol won that one.
Right.
And then Song Yusang, he went up against Kicks' Baekhyun-woo. So on paper, Baekhyun-woo had a slight advantage. And in the end, Baekhyun-woo converted that advantage to a win. So despite having the advantage of getting the player assignments in advance, Team Celtrion lost 3-1.
Yeah.
So what do you think of their strategy?
I mean, it's a bit of a surprise to me because obviously Korean culture would be very close to Chinese culture, and if you look at Chinese culture, if you talk to children, like basically primary school children, and ask them about this famous story, in Chinese it's called 天际赛马. It's basically one of the most famous stories for children. Basically, it's one of those Chinese entries that doesn't have an English entry in Wikipedia, but it's definitely the story is so simple. It's just that in a racing competition, you're meant to put your horses into 3 streams: the top, middle, and bottom, and you kind of just race them. And based on the streaming of the horses, if you win 2 out of 3, then you win the whole match. So this guy, Sun Bin, some Sun Bin, he basically came up with a game strategy where he says, why don't you put your worst horse versus their best horse? You definitely lose one, but now your top horse is now facing their middle horse. Your middle horse is facing their worst horse. So you have a really good chance of winning 2-1. And that's exactly what happened. And this strategy came up in China more than 2,000 years ago. In fact, it happened in the Warring States period, which is around I don't know, is that 2,400 years ago at least, if not more. I can't remember now, but it's a long time ago. So they really should have just followed this strategy. And by the way, Gaza, having said this, you notice that this entry is only in Chinese and there's no English entry that you can point to because it's so simple. It seems to be obvious even to kids. But this doesn't stop some of the Chinese nationalists from using this one strategy that they came up with 2,000 years ago, a really simple one, to say that the game theory was invented in China. Okay, that's not all. They seem to do this a lot. Now you know about this periscope where they put into the submarines, so you can look through and see things because the lights are reflected at 90 degree angles down 2 mirrors. Apparently, they say that this is also invented in China because of this simple picture over here. Apparently, it was in the Han Dynasty that someone had invented this mirror thing, so he can reflect the image onto a body of water, so he can kind of monitor, what's happening outside the walls without having to kind of look over the walls. So this is kind of the level of things where they just kind of overreach a little bit. They kind of claim a lot of modern theories and inventions that as having been invented in China, even though it's just a really simple thing. But I guess the whole point of the story is that this is not rocket science, Gaza. This is known a long time ago, and people aren't doing it for some reason.
Yes, I was speaking to had a discussion with Zin actually.
Yeah.
A former guest on this podcast, and he mentioned, but imagine if it worked, then everyone would be saying it was genius.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is, it didn't work though. So,
well, I actually, having said that, it seems to be an obvious strategy, even if you haven't studied game theory. I do wonder, would it actually be better putting up someone who's got a 5% chance winning versus Shinjin than if you put someone with a 20% chance of winning versus Shinjin? Like, what actually would work out as better in terms of overall probability of winning? I actually don't know. I think I do need to simulate a little bit to see it, because it kind of isn't that obvious to me that putting a worst player versus Shinjin is the best strategy, because maybe anyone has a chance of beating Shinjin, especially if in a Korean league, but it's just whether it's 5% or 10%, it's definitely possible, and I don't really know what is the optimal strategy here. Maybe someone with serious game theory chops can tell me.
Yes, but I would say that if it turns out that game theory does suggest that the strategy that Celtron used is viable, that certainly wasn't the reason they used that strategy.
Right.
They didn't have a team of statisticians or game theorists.
No.
Running simulations or applying formulas to determine that Sim Jae-ik should be the one to face Shinjin. So.
Yeah. I think maybe they should.
Yes, but like we said, it is best of 3 matches. So even though they lost match 1, Celtron weren't eliminated yet, and in match 2 they came back with a vengeance.
Yep, vengeance.
Song Gyu-sang beat Park Jin-sol. Kim Young-hoon beat
Kim Song-jae.
Unfortunately, Kim Song-jae got paired with Kim Young-hoon again, and Kim Young-hoon won that.
Yeah.
And then Sim Jae-ik, he faced the Futures League player that Team Kicks brought up, Park Jae-gyun.
Yep.
So Sim Jae-ik did redeem himself, not against Shinjin So, of course. Of course, Shinjin So, he won. He beat Choi Cho-han. But Celtron did win the second match 3-1.
Yeah.
And mind you, these 3 matches are played on 3 consecutive days. The first match was played, I believe, on Wednesday. Or, no, it was Thursday. It was Thursday, yes.
Yes.
The second match was played on Friday, and the third match was played on the Saturday. So 3 consecutive days. So then the question was, the third match was the deciding match, and the question was, who was going to win? Obviously, was Celtron going to? Well, I think in the regular season they split it 1 match apiece, and so far in the playoffs they've split it 1 match apiece. So then the question was, in this deciding match, who was going to come out on top? And it ended up being overwhelmingly Team Kicks.
Right.
On the deciding match, Team Kicks they brought their A game. Yes. In the deciding match. Shinjin So, he was paired up against Choi Cho-han.
Again.
Shinjin So, as expected, completely annihilated Choi Cho-han.
Yes.
By the way, Choi Cho-han is an absolute legend. He's won over 1,000 games, and he's a world champion. He's an in-cup
winner.
Champion.
Yeah.
He's won over 1,200 games, by the way. Yeah. He's won 17 titles in his career. He had a storied rivalry with Lee Se-dol.
Yep.
But that didn't stop him from getting decimated by Shinjin So. Board 2 was Kim Chang-hoon, Kicks' number 5 player, against Celtron's number 5 player, Song Gyu-sang.
Yep.
And Kim Chang-hoon won that. And then Kicks' second inform player, Baekhyun Woo.
Yep.
He was up against Celtron's captain, Kim Young-hoon. And you know what happened? This was and those earlier 2 games, Shinjin So and Kim Chang-hoon, they were the first 2 to finish.
Yep.
And so it was up to Kim Young-hun to beat Baekhyun Woo to keep Seocheon's hopes alive, and he was not able to do it.
Lost by 1.5 points.
He lost, but it went to Dame, it went to a count,
Right.
and in the end, Baekhyun Woo won by 1.5 points to send kicks to the semi-finals. And you could see just the look of disappointment on Kim Young-hun's face after they finished counting, because he knew that it was over. Like this loss meant that it was over for Team Seocheon in the playoffs. And you have to feel for Kim Young-hun, because this is his first season as team captain in the Korean League. In the previous 2 seasons, he was the number 2 player, not for Seocheon, but for, I think, Jongwon-jan Chinook, he was the number 2 player behind Lee Dong-hoon. And so this year, he got redrafted as captain. This is his first year as captain, so he's the first time leading the team. And so he must have felt a lot of responsibility on his shoulders. And it's just, I could just imagine it's the worst feeling to have all that responsibility, and then it ends up, your loss is the one that sends your team to elimination.
Yep. Oh, wow.
But I have to say, though, Shin Jin-soo, Kim Jang-hun, and Baekhyun Woo, they brought their big games today. None of those 3 games, like, it went to a count, but Baekhyun Woo was never seemed to be in any serious danger in the game, and Kim Chang-hun and Shin Jin-soo had very convincing wins as well.
Yes.
It was a demolition, and if that's the style of if that consistency continues for Team Kicks, they've got a chance of making the final.
Yeah, and to think that they have just barely made it to the postseason.
Yes,
it's crazy turnaround.
Yes, Korean League is a great thing, and in fact, the Korean League is happening right now.
Yes,
the semi-final in the other side between Team Gyeonggwang Chinook and Team Beautiful Hapcheon is currently happening. I will post the link in the chat. So you can watch that. It's currently, I believe, Gyeonggwang Chinook is leading 2 games to 1 in the first match, and board 4 is happening at the moment.
Yes.
Between Kim Jong-hyun and Hyo Young-ho.
Yes. Very nice. Okay, so that's the Korean League, I guess. Looking forward to it. Hopefully we'll see Shin Jin-soo's Team Kicks making the final. That would be quite a run.
Yes. First, though, they'll have to get past Team Korea Price Information.
Yep. So looking forward to that. Continue coverage of that. Gaza, I think it's time for the calendar for the next week.
Yes, and next week it's a bit of not as packed calendar, I believe. We have a couple of Weiqi Construction Cup games.
Yep.
Park Jun-hwan versus Kim Seung-gu and Lee Chang-ho versus Shin Jin-soo.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a generation.
We also have, so the IBK Cup has already started.
Yep.
That's basically one of the Korean women majors. We haven't discussed that yet, but we're still in the round of 16, so it's still early days.
Sure.
Yes.
So rounding out the week, starting from Friday, I do believe it's the return of the Qingyuan Cup, which is, of course, the most prestigious women's world major. The team has been, all the players have been announced. It will be happening over 3 days. It will play all the way from round of 24 to the round of to the quarterfinals, I believe. So that's going to be a huge major international tournament that's coming up. That's going to be probably the biggest competitions in the next week. Rounding out Friday, Saturday,
there
Sunday.
is there is another big competition that's just getting entered now.
Right.
I didn't put in the calendar before, so if you refresh the calendar now,
Yep.
you should see it.
Oh, Honinbo Game 3.
Honinbo Game 3 is this week. Iyama Yuta versus Ichiriki Ryo. Ichiriki is leading 2-0. So if he wins this one, it is a best of 7.
Yep.
But a 3-0 advantage. Ooh, that's it would be looking good for Ichiriki, but currently it's 2-0. So
well, obviously, it's extremely rare to come back from 3 down to win the series. Has happened before, but
it has happened before, yes. But there's also another game, I believe, Women's Honinbo is happening in about 11 hours as of this recording.
Very nice.
Between Yuno Asami and Kibe Natsuki. I'll put that in the calendar, but
Yep.
yeah, I think that's all for the Japanese
Yep.
scene. But yeah, the Wu Qingyuan Cup is a big one.
Yep.
Do we have the Do we have the list of players for that one? I think we do.
Yes, we do.
We should mention that.
Yeah, we'll quickly just read them out. So it's a 24-player tournament. So from China, we got last year's finalists Wang Xinghao, Yu Zhiying, Zhou Hongyu, Fan Roshi, Gao Xing, Tang Jiawen, Li Xiaoxi, and Wu Yiming and Li He. Now, of course, you would expect that Wang Xinghao would have had a baby since then. So, yeah, so she's going to be a new mom, but still participating in this competition, it looks like. And from Taiwan, we have Lu Yuhua and a wildcard, Yu Li Jun. And from Korea, we have Oh Yujin, Choi Jong, Kim Chae-young, Kim Kyun-gyun, and Jung Yoo-jin. Jung Yoo-jin, of course, was the winner of the IBK Cup last year. So
yes,
great to see her.
I believe this is her first international women's international major competition.
Yes. And of course, you describe her style as fearless. Let's see how fearless she will do in this tournament. I'm really looking forward to how she does. And then we got from Japan the usual suspects: Fujisawa Rina, Ueno Osami, Nakamura Sumire, and New Aiko. And from Europe, we have amateur 5 dan and amateur 4 dan. So Rita Poskai and Ariane Ogier. So that's the European representatives. And from North America, also 2 representatives, Feng Yun and Stephanie Ying, or Ying Ming Ming.
Yes, I believe that they've appeared. They may have appeared in every Wu Qingyuan Cup,
right?
So far. So,
yes. And of course, you recall last year, Feng Yun almost fell to the European representative, and she only just scraped through with half a point win, showing her class as a 9 dan.
Yes. By the way, did you mention the last year's winner of the Wu Qingyuan Cup?
It was Oh Yujin.
Yes, Oh Yujin,
yes,
the winner. But Choi Jong and Kim Chae-young, they are all former winners of the Wu Qingyuan Cup, as is Zhou Hongyu.
Yes. So yeah, definitely some big names in there.
Yes, in fact, I believe all of the past Wu Qingyuan Cup winners are competing.
Right.
In this Wu Qingyuan Cup, is no Rui Nawe? There's no Rui Nawe. She's not a former winner, but she is, of course, a legend. Probably the greatest women's player of all time.
Sure. Yep.
But she is not competing, unfortunately. Perhaps this may be the first time that she hasn't competed.
Yes. So another big competition. Really looking forward to this one. So another going to be a huge week of Baduk next week. So with that, Gaza, I think it's time to say goodbye for another episode.
I agree. Goodbye.
Okay.